Good morning. It's Monday, April the 27th. We're going to continue our work in reviewing linear equations, going back to slope-intercept form. We're going to look at a graph and identify some points that could be on that line. We're then going to look at a linear equation and make a table, and then identify the parts that are represented in slope-intercept form in a linear equation. For today. On Wednesday, we'll continue with graphing. Even though you won't be doing a lot of graphing yourself, you will be identifying information that is on a graph. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is look at this graph on the right and identify which of these 6 points is actually on the graph and which aren't on the graph. So if we look at it carefully, the first one here, we go to 2 to the right and 0, and that point is in fact on the graph. It's a little hard to mark it, but there it is, so yes. -3, -3, I'm going to go to the left. 1, 2, 3, and down 3, and that point in fact is not on the graph. It's off of the graph, so the answer to that part is no. -1, 0, -1 is to the left, and down, and I'm not going anywhere, I'm just going to sit right there, and that in fact is not on the graph either. Let's look at 5, 1.5, we go over to 5, and up to 1.5 here, over there a little bit, and in fact it is on the graph, yes. Now the next 2 points aren't on this graph at all that we can see, but we can make some guesses about it. 6, 2 would be just over to the right of where the 5 is, and then up to here. And a good guess would say yes, in fact, that point is on the line. The next one's a little bit of a stretch, going over 8 to 3. So over, there's 5, 6, 7, 8, up to 3. Looks like it could be, so let's say yes for purposes of discussion. Okay, so even though those points aren't pictured, we can still feel pretty confident that they are on the line. But here's where the real goal is for this lesson is the point 128,63 on the line above? Clearly we can't observe that by looking at the graph itself, but let's find out how we can determine that. So to answer that, we need to get more comfortable with linear equations in general. So we're going to start by graphing one with a table. And given the linear equation y equals -2x plus 3, we're going to make a table. Here are a list of x values in this column. We're going to substitute those values for the x in the equation that we're given. And the first one will look like this. Y equals -2. Substitute x, and x in this case is -1 plus 3. Do the arithmetic. -2 times -1 is 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. So the y value in the first one is 5. Number 2, y equals -2 times 0 plus 3. 0 times anything is going to be 0, so that leaves my y as 3. The third one, y equals -2 times 1 plus 3. -2 times 1 is -2. -2 plus 3 gives me a +1. And last, y equals -2 times 2 plus 3, which gives me -4 plus 3, which is -1. So let's graph that. So we go -1 up to 5 is going to be about here. Sorry, this is going to be a little rough. 0, 3 is 0, 1, 2, 3 is here. 1, 1 is going to be right here. And 2, -1 is going to be here. And it's a little raggedy, but if I draw my line, which I can't do very well, I will see that those 4 points make up this particular line. So, graphing linear equations with tables takes a long time to do, And we don't want to have to spend all of our time doing that, substituting values to create the line. But when we look at the equation y equals negative 2x plus 3, we see that the slope is negative 2. It's going in a negative direction from left down, so it's a negative slope. And for every 2 that I go across, I go down 1. Excuse me. For every 2 that I go down here, I go across 1 and create the slope that we learned in the previous lesson. So we learned that the slope is negative 2 in this equation, and it crosses the y-intercept at 3. So now we have a faster way to graph a linear equation. Here's the slope-intercept form as a reminder. Y equals mx plus b. It's kind of a raggedy b. Let's see if we can fix that. Plus b. I'm getting a new pen. Hopefully it'll show up this week. So in this case, m represents the slope. And b equals the y-intercept. That's where it crosses the y-axis, reminding ourselves again that the y-axis is the vertical axis. Okay? So let's look at a couple of examples. This is what your homework is going to look like. So before we start graphing, which we'll do on Wednesday, we're going to practice recognizing slope and y-intercept. In the first equation, y equals 3x plus 4. The slope is represented by the 3 and the y-intercept 4. Second one, y equals negative 2/3 x minus 5. The slope is negative 2/3. And the y-intercept is negative 5. Don't forget that negative sign goes with the number that follows it. Third example, there's no number in front of the x. Remind ourselves when there is no number, we look at the phantom 1, so the slope is 1, and the y-intercept is 6. And in the last one, we also do not have a number, but we have a negative, so our slope is going to be a negative 1. And because there is no y-intercept, if the x was gone, y would equal 0. Okay, so that's all you need for today. Your homework's relatively easy. Today's a short lesson. We'll do IXL on Wednesday and Friday this week, but since you only have a 30-minute lesson today, this is all we're going to cover. Have a great day. I'll see you at tutorial if you need help. Bye.